Good morning.
We're good to go.
Good morning. I apologize for being late. We'll go ahead and call the JLMBC regular meeting for June 5th to order at 9:11.
The meeting is now starting. We will begin with roll call of the JLMBC members, starting with the employee organizations, then management. Janita Iguela,
Here.
Marlene Fonseca,
Here.
Chad Boggio,
Here.
Esteban Lizardo, Lisa Palombi, Malika Phillips,
Present.
Emily Mayetta in 420 Royster,
Here.
Matthew Rudnick,
Present.
Paul Girard in for Matthew Zeibel,
Present.
Petty Santos.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, do we have any public comments?
For those of you in the room, if you would like to make public comments, please bring up your speaker card now. For those of you who are on the Zoom call, please please press 9 on the phone to be placed in line for the speaker queue. We do not have any speakers for today.
Okay, well then let's go ahead and get a recommendation to approve the minutes of the December 5th, 2024 regular meeting.
So move.
Okay, we will begin the roll call for votes. Janita, your vote.
Yep.
Marlene, your vote.
Aye.
Chad, your vote.
Aye.
Malika, your vote.
Aye.
Emily, your vote.
Aye.
Matthew, your vote.
Aye.
Paul, your vote.
Aye.
Petty, your vote.
Aye.
The votes are unanimous. The motion passes.
All right, well, let's go to item number 4, committee report 25-26, creation of ad hoc subcommittee on governance.
Okay, for this report I will be presenting. So this report is regarding the creation of an ad hoc subcommittee on governance. At the May 15th special JLMBC meeting, it was discussed and suggested that the proposed language change to the Los Angeles Administrative Code Article 5 of Chapter 7 of Division 4 be further reviewed and discussed via an ad hoc committee. As such, staff is recommending that a JLMBC ad hoc committee be created for the purpose of developing recommendations to the JLMBC on any desired change to the authority language under the LAAC Article 5, Chapter 7, Division 4 provision. Upon approval from the JLMBC, staff will reach out to members for interest on serving on the subcommittee.
Okay, do we have any questions or discussion? All right, can we get a motion to approve deputy? Or
We
what was?
we need a motion to
Yes.
move to approve it in a second.
Right.
Move staff recommendation. Second.
Thank you. We will begin the vote. We will begin taking vote on the recommendation. Janita, your vote.
Aye.
Marlene, your vote. Chad, your vote.
Aye.
Malika, your vote.
Aye.
Emily, your vote.
Aye.
Matthew, your vote.
Aye.
Paul, your vote.
Aye.
Petty, your vote.
Aye.
The votes are unanimous. The motion passes.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and keep it moving to item number 5. Committee report 25-27, the 2025 International Foundation of Employee Benefit Plans Annual Conference.
Good morning, JLMBC. This is Ruby Ann Jamawas, Benefits Analyst at the Employee Benefits Division, here to present on Committee Report 25-27 for the 2025 IFBB Annual Conference that will take place in November of this year in Honolulu, Hawaii. We're presenting 3 options for the recommendation. First is that the JLMBC deny any use of funding for staff or JLMBC members to attend IFEVP in person or virtually in November 2025, or approve the necessary funding from the Employee Benefits Trust Fund for any interested JLMBC member to attend IFEVP virtually only in November 2025, or approve the necessary funding from the Employee Benefits Trust Fund for up to 2 JLMBC members to attend in person for the November 2025 IFEVP conference in Honolulu, Hawaii. That's the end of this report. Any questions?
Move to approve recommendation B. Staff report. Second.
I have a question on B. Is that the same price as attending in person?
Correct.
So if it's approved and that payment is made, would there be an option if we choose later, through our own organization fund to attend in person, would we be able to switch it?
I believe you can do that once after you register, you can update your registration, but as for the additional reimbursements, that might have to be.
Yeah. And also are all the classes available for?
I believe only the main sessions are. There might be some smaller sessions that might not be available on live stream.
Marlene, I'd be fine with a friendly amendment to modify to allow for the registration to be paid for. But travel, if a JLMBC member wants to use other funds.
Well, I think it's the same. It's the same price. Plus, I'm still not sure depending on what's gonna be happening in the city, so I think it's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, we will now begin taking the vote for recommendation B.
Was there a second? Second. No. Second to this.
Lisa, your vote?
Yes.
Marlene, your vote?
Aye.
Chad, your vote?
No. No. I'm sorry, I had a frog in my throat. I just wanted to make sure it was there. No, voting no.
Malika, your vote?
Aye.
Emily, your vote?
Aye.
Matthew, your vote?
Aye.
Paul, your vote?
Aye.
Hetty, your vote? We do not have quorum. The motion does not pass.
Okay.
So, the recommendation for item B does not pass. So is there further discussion here or?
By failing to do anything, are we voting for item A? There's no hesitation. Yeah. Right.
So I will propose the next item we're going to talk about is budget. It is a draft concept. It is something that I'm going to be presenting as an item which may or may not get passed today, and we'll have other actions back. So there could be further discussion on what was just asked in that item. If this item as proposed does not pass, then there would just be no action for staff to allow anybody to immediately register or to move forward with travel.
Well, we haven't, I mean, I would like to make a motion that we approve recommendation C and see if that was second. I mean,
We have a,
yeah, I mean, my reason for this is that because there's limited access to the agenda, I think it makes more sense to send two people, cover the costs, one from each side, and have them have the full slate of educational material available to them. I think that makes more sense for the committee.
Mr. Bojo, the amended motion is C, but to amend. I'm sorry, there's no amendment, it's just C, but allow one member from refining what the two members mean at the JLMBC,
Correct.
one from management and one from labor.
Correct.
So that's the motion.
It is, thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We will now take the vote on modified recommendation C. Janita, your vote?
All right, why not? Yeah.
Marlene, your vote?
Aye.
Chad, your vote?
Aye.
Malika, your vote?
No.
Emily, your vote?
No.
Matthew, your vote?
No.
Paul, your vote?
No.
Petty, your vote?
Nay.
We do not have quorum. The motion, does not pass.
And so then that is,
Is there any motion for A?
Or should we reconsider B, even though it's been voted on?
We would have to take a vote to reconsider B and then have B back on. Reintroduce the item B for discussion and then vote again.
Do we have a recommendation to,
I'll recommend to reconsider B.
We have a motion to reconsider B. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, so the reconsideration item is now back on the table. Is there a motion to continue discussion on item B? We have a first?
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you utter it?
yes, motion to reconsider.
We have a second? We have a second. So let's take a vote.
we will, take the vote for recommendation B again. Janita, your vote?
Yes.
Marlene, your vote?
Aye.
Chad, your vote?
Aye.
Lisa, your vote?
Aye.
Malika, your vote?
Aye.
Emily, your vote?
Aye.
Matthew, your vote?
Aye.
Paul, your vote?
Aye.
Petty, your vote?
Aye.
The votes are unanimous. The motion passes.
Item B is now open for discussion. And the motion to approve item B as drafted or amended. As the committee sees fit.
So yeah, make a motion to approve it. as-
Approval. We have a motion to approve item B.
Is there any discussion about this before we vote again?
It's an unlimited number of people in item B, so how much is that fund of the registration?
I believe it was 3 or 2.
Registration costs before September 29, it's $1,850. After, it's $2,150.
What do you mean it's more expensive? Before we hit a second?
Two people,
Uh-huh.
expenses for less than it's gonna be for if everybody participates virtually. And they're gonna have limited access to the agenda or the educational item. But if that's what you guys wanna do, I'm fine. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, typically they'll offer the most important salient sessions virtually. It's not a good look. I mean, you've heard, there's a resounding no from management. It's
I
optically,
understood. I'm not, yeah, we don't need
well,
to.
people are, well, maybe we do, maybe I need to say. And, you know, and I think Matthew was the one who moved this point originally, and I wholeheartedly endorse it. When people are on their way out, we shouldn't, I mean, it just looks gratuitous.
Even though it could be more expensive.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
I understand.
because you can get educated, and look. Why not find the funding some other way to get there?
Yeah.
I'm all for that. I'm all for letting everyone enroll. And if you want to get there on your own dime and pick up that cost yourself, that's great.
Would you be more comfortable capping the number of virtual participants?
No, I'm okay with, go ahead.
I'd be more comfortable capping the number of participants virtually again. $1,000 is a lot for a conference.
There's no second yet, so you can amend B.
I'd like to amend B to cap the amount at 2, one from each,
Oh,
one from management, one from.
the motion is approve option B of item number 5. Amended to allow only one person from the management of the management members to register, and one member from the labor organization register. For a total of 2 total registration.
Would you be comfortable making it 2 from each side?
I've attended the conference before years ago, and it's really valuable. The material's super valuable, but it is quite a time commitment. And so if either, side is gonna make a determination that it's an individual commitment. I'd be surprised if two on each side actually take up the opportunity. But I'm comfortable with two from each side for what quarter.
That's fine.
Matt, do you want to make the
Sure,
amending motion to the
sure,
amending motion?
Sure,
Okay.
my amending motion is we approve item B, but amend it to cap it at two individuals from labor and two from in.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Does this also pertain to staff? Is our recommendation addressing staff?
As written, it does not. And the reason it does not is this year is expected to be a very busy year for staff. So we are not anticipating sending staff at all in that time period.
So a friendly to a friendly that is not, if two people don't show up from each side, that we can use total of 4 slots to send staff. So if only one management representative wants to go, I mean, if we're going to commit to funding 4 people, it seems like a lost opportunity if one of your staff or more want to attend.
You definitely can make that recommendation if that's in the interest of the committee.
A friendly to the friendly that we send no more than 2 management representatives and 2 labor representatives, but in the event that we have 0 or 1 from either side, the opportunity is extended to the staff of the employee benefits division.
We're talking virtual, right?
Yes.
Second.
We will now begin taking a roll call vote for recommendation B as amended to cap for 2 labor and 2 management JLMBC members. And in the should any spots be unfilled, EBD staff can fill those spots. Okay, Janita, your vote.
Aye.
Marlene, your vote.
Aye.
Chad, your vote. Aye. Lisa, your vote.
Aye.
Malika, your vote.
Aye.
Emily, your vote.
Aye.
Matthew, your vote.
Aye.
Paul, your vote.
Aye.
Petty, your vote.
Aye.
The votes are unanimous. The motion passes.
Before we move on, can I ask the attorney to please explain to us how voting works? Because I was in a minority, both from labor and as a total. And my vote prevented the item from moving forward, but I don't understand how that works.
So. Correct it?
Yeah.
There's in order for a quorum to exist for this committee, just as background, you would need quorum within the membership of the various organizational members.
So you need a quorum.
Various organizational groups. So you need a quorum within the management members, and a quorum within the labor organization members to have quorum for this meeting.
I understand.
So when a matter is voted, you would need a majority of that's the sub quorums within management and within labor.
So
hypothetically,
Yes.
let's say an item was being voted on, if it was approved by all of the management members, but not approved by the labor members, the item does not pass.
well, it's got to be approved by 3 of the 4.
3 of those, it's a majority of the quorum. So if you
Overall quorum.
present, so if you have, hypothetically, if you have 3
The original motion should have passed.
if you have 3 members, management, 3 members of labor for an item when voted upon, you would need at least 2 members of management and 2 members of labor to approve the item.
But originally, that's what happened. I voted no, Marlene voted yes, Janita voted yes, so the original motion should have passed.
But there's 5 members on each side, and we need 3 to be present on each side for a meeting to even happen. Otherwise, we can't have it.
But management did not approve.
No, the original motion, it did.
The vote was, it was only Chad.
First vote was just.
The only
vote So it's-
was
Correct.
So it's still 3 minimum that are needed to pass on each side. Three affirmative votes.
He said you need a quorum right? To have a meeting, three on each side.
But to clarify, I think the bylaws say it has to be a majority of the 5 seats. So if we only have 3 members present, we need all 3 vote.
Correct.
You're right, correct, I'm sorry.
Okay, now that I understand. Okay.
Majority of the body.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Correct.
Not who's present.
Correct.
I understand now. Thank you. That was lost on me, but I appreciate you guys taking the time to have me understand.
That's a valuable clarification.
Yeah, no, I needed to
I
know that.
understood where you're,
Mhm.
it's confusing.
Sorry to hang up everybody.
No, call your questions.
We didn't know the answer.
No, the fact that there was actually a discussion about it made me feel a little validated. Like, okay.
We all learned something. Thank you, Chad. Okay, we can go ahead and move on to item number 6. Committee report 25-28 benefit trust fund budget for fiscal year 25-26.
Hi, everyone, Paul McCuskey from Employee Benefits. I'll lead us through this. So the intent of this is to bring forth an overall spending plan for this committee to adopt. We have not done that before in this committee. This committee has seen the outcome of the final expenses. So every year we bring an expenditure report that's required under the ad code for the committee to approve and send forward to council. But we never bring the budget in the beginning of it, at least not in a format like we're trying to suggest in this way. And in our last meeting, well, maybe not the last meeting, but in the special meeting on May 15th, there was a lot of questions into the overall finances of how the trust fund works and those other components. So this is presented as a very rough and very simplified way of trying to create a spending plan that is in line with what you've seen historically from those expenditure reports that can also serve, hopefully, to explain everything on how the fund works and what this committee's requirements and obligations are and your authority. And so that when we do get to that expenditure report, it will be an easier thing to digest as well and understand. This is definitely a very, very rough draft. The committee can decide on any changes you want in trying to move a budget forward. And we can definitely bring back something a lot more detailed, but this is try one on trying to figure out how this is going to work. So it can start off on page 2 of just the authority. So this is the ad code authority of the trust fund itself and where the committee fits in. So under item D, all the money deposited into the trust fund, the Employee Benefits Trust Fund, is to be used exclusively for premiums, cash in lieu, and administrative and operating costs as approved by JLMBC. How we've done that in the past has been the adoption of the plan, the overall plan menu and those items there, but not detailed towards an actual budget like we're proposing. And then item E, right below that, the fund shall be administered, expenditures shall be authorized by the JLMBC or its designee. And by de facto, the personnel department is the designee, but we're going to talk about that a little bit further. Out of the actual Employee Benefits Trust Fund, that includes both money that the city is providing. That's where we talked about a little bit on the 15th. There's a lot of general fund dollars that are contributed towards this fund, but there's other dollars that are contributed to the fund for the overall cost, those premiums, cash in lieu, and everything else to be spent. On the top of page 3, that is the city's expenditure. So that is a snapshot of what the human resources budget looks like for this current proposed fiscal year. The very first line item, the human resources budget, is this massive budget that covers a lot of items, and the employee benefits program, the one that this JLMBC oversees, is a good portion of that budget, but not the whole thing. This benefits program, the JLMBC is fully covered on that full line item for the trust fund. That estimated $400 million that is $400 million that is proposed for 25-26. Is fully for LAWell. A portion of the contractual services line item is also for the LAWell program, and a portion of the employee assistance program is also for the LAWell program. So out of those first 3 line items out of the human resources budget, the majority of that, or almost all of it in the first one, it goes towards the trust fund and what the JLMBC is covering. So, but that is just the city's payment. That does not include the overall cost of the program. So the further at the bottom of page 3 is where we brought back the last expense report that this committee has looked at and trying to outline how the expenses have been portrayed to this committee, what they are, and how we can plan to look for what a budget should look like. So that also is copied in attachment. I'm going to mess up my attachments now. Attachment A is a full copy of the last trust fund report that was brought to the committee and adopted and sent forth to council. That was for the fiscal year of 23-24. The trust fund activity for 24-25 will be brought to this committee at the August meeting, most likely. It needs to go forward to council by September. But the format of that expense report has been the same for many years. The revenues that are identified there, the employer contributions, that is exactly what the city pays. So that employer contribution line is 100% general fund dollars that are transferred into the trust fund for expenditure of premiums. Reimbursements from other funds, that is the amount of money that we receive from proprietary departments. So whenever there is somebody in LAWA, Harbor, or the 2 retirement systems, we bill them for the employee's cost or for the subsidy that is paid for those employees in those departments. So they pay us back. That also includes a reimbursement from other funds. The reason why it says other funds, it includes money that we might get from other sources, refunds back from premiums made, some are wellness dollars, other miscellaneous items related towards the actual services of the program that come back to us go into that line item. Employee contributions is exactly what it sounds like. It is the money coming out of employee paychecks for their share of their premium, whatever they've enrolled into. And then all the money gets put into the city's general pot and gains interest. So that's what we reported in last year. The last 3 lines we could consider quote unquote special funds. That represents about 22% for that particular year. It varies between 20 and 25% we've seen. So about 75% general fund dollars, about 25% special fund. On the top of page 4, that's how we identified spending in that last year. So this is, or in the past few reports of it. So this is really just a few different categories broken up in different line items. And that's attempted to be represented on the right-hand side. So out of those 3 authorities that the fund says we can pay for, there's admin and operation expenses, cash in lieu, and premium. So the premium is identified as the carrier payments, and then also the refunds to employee contributions. So whenever there's adjustments to something, so someone enrolled into a benefit, but we still took money out of their paycheck just because of timing, we have to pay them back. That's what that line represents, that refunds of employee contributions. The cash in lieu is exactly what it sounds like. It's the amount of money that we are spending directly to employees for their cash in lieu. It's a salary expenditure, so we're actually paying the department in transfer of funds so that the employee can have that money on their paycheck. And then everything else on that is an admin operating expense. So that includes the staffing reimbursement costs, which you see as personnel department staffing at the top, as well as wellness program salaries at the bottom. That includes the wellness expenditures, which would be contractual, as well as anything else we do with that program, printing, and office expenses. Office expenses is a catch-all in this particular line item. It includes what we just talked about in the prior one. So that $99,000 included travel. That's where we categorize it as under the office expense line, excuse me. Contractual services, and I know I'm skipping around, contractual services that is in the middle, that is just a portion of our overall contracts. Premiums, which is the big ticket one, that $441 million, that's all of our service providers that provide an actual benefit. Contractual services would be our consultants. It would also be what's not identified in here is our third-party administrator. That is something that I want to add in the future. It just hasn't been categorized in here to date. So using that same structure, we wanted to try to propose a budget that looks somewhat similar so it's easier to understand and track along. The difference in that concept is when we look at the plan dollars and how the plan is going to be working on a calendar year basis, it's still calendar year premium, and the budget is fiscal year. So trying to transpose those two is always a complicated concept, but we're going to try to do it. So on page 5, We're at the bottom of page 5, what we're trying to lay out is a simplified order of what the spending plan would look like. So we're just putting things together in those categories out of the same expenditure sheets that you've already seen. And then well, let's talk about what the plan is going to be for spending. We wanted to give you an update of where we're at on the current fiscal year. So on page 6 shows where the city cost expectation is for 24-25 versus the total premium. And this is projection for what is going to close at the end of this month, based on what we see. So we expect for fiscal year 24-25 to end with a total premium expenditure of just under $500 million. The city's cost is 460 as expected. And then we have department reimbursements. And so the end cost to the fund of the overall expenditure total after reimbursements would be 400, just under 420 of total premium. Any questions so far? And that's still fiscal year. So then on page 7 is where we're going to attempt to try to put that together as a spending plan, still under a fiscal year concept of 25-26. So under the fiscal year concept of 25-26, we are saying there's the $400 million that's on the top line on page 7. That is what the HRB budget is outlined for civilian benefits program. The reimbursement amount of 80, I'm going to skip over that second line. The reimbursement amount of 81 million, that is the anticipated change from how we've seen the current projection work. So we're expecting 78 million in reimbursements for this year, for this current fiscal year. So we're expecting an increase for next fiscal year, and it's listed as 81. Same thing with employee contributions. There's a small change. We're expecting 38 million. The past experience, if I went back to the prior report, was 36. And interest income is just assumed at the same. Under premium payments, carrier premiums is projected to be 520. That would be an increase over the current projection of total premium of just under 500. That is being projected at 520 because of a potential increase in medical, which we don't know yet, but that's just an estimate of trying to get to an overall dollar amount. We expect cash in lieu to be the same. We don't expect to see much fluctuation in cash in lieu payments. We expect contractual payments to be the same, again, noting that I want to potentially make some changes in the future on that. But as of right now, contractual payments are listed to be in line with what we have had historically in the expenditure reports. The staffing reimbursement includes the change that the JLMBC made in the May 15th special meeting. That used to be a $1.5 million figure, or just under that, I believe, with just the staffing reimbursements of the positions historically that we have had included with the program, making it for everybody in the program, and then leaving some buffer room for the cost of living increases and other things that are expected to happen this year. We're putting a figure of 3.5. Printing and binding is listed as 200. We are going to talk about trying to reduce our expenditure on printing quite substantially. This would be enough to cover open enrollment as we have historically had open enrollment. It wouldn't be too much more to do past that. But that would be enough to cover that and would cover any other odds and ends on printing if we did not make changes to our printing. And then office expenses is copying the expenditure amount from previous, which could include travel of any type and any other related expense that is not listed in those categories that serves the program. And then wellness expenditures covers contractual as well as any other expenses that the wellness program may be looking at. This is a very, very simple zero-based spending plan. It doesn't take into account reserves or the current status of the account. And we can change anything. So it really depends on how detailed you want to get or what you want to look at. If there are not any immediate questions. Yes, sure.
It's not my attempt to nitpick what you proposed here. I just want to understand the thought process behind it.
Sure.
So could you please help me understand the additional anticipated employee contributions from 36 million to 38 million? Like,
Yeah.
what is the source of that? What is the logic behind it?
So there is going to be a rate change in medical. We don't know what that rate change is going to be. There are, regardless of any change right now, there are a percentage of people that pay for a medical plan. So there's a payment for PPO, there's a payment for the full network. So there is going to be a potential increase there. There's also always fluctuation that happens through open enrollment change. And that's always the difficult thing with this particular budget, is because there's not control over employee choice. We don't know what employees are going to do. They could surprise us and do anything. So we try to look at projections on looking at current past practice, which may not be the same thing that moves forward. So that's the difference between 36 and 38, is a conservative, at least attempted to be, ability to cover what we think might be coming in.
And I just, so looking at the 2024 personnel staffing lines and adding them up and looking at what the additional personnel is from places that would not have been on the 2024.
Good question. So two different, yes, in part. So the additional is for people that we've more than doubled the amount of people that are going to be identified in that staffing moving forward. And then this is also the overall spending plan representation of those dollars, whereas the expense report shows the physical actual reimbursed amount. So we have had vacancies in those positions historically, where we're essentially netting a savings because we are not reimbursing those positions in full as originally intended.
So just to understand your comment, so when we're looking at 2024, we're looking at dollars spent, and we're looking at what you're proposing that based on filling the vacancies in the expert position.
Correct. That would be the 3.5 would be the total. Like, that's enough money to cover everybody under those authorities that we currently have. If everybody worked every single day, no breaks, fully expended.
Was there any consideration given as far as increased admin expenses relative to the potential provider changes we've been discussing over the last 10 months now? I mean, you're going to potentially disrupt 6,000 on the max side. Employees insurance, my guess is there's going to be a lot of communication, hopefully, for people. So have you anticipated additional admin expenses in the budget for that?
The only anticipated additional is already outlined there. So we are anticipating an additional. It is a nominal additional that would be covered under the office expenses, as well as the printing and binding. So if the printing and binding from last, at least the representation here from last time was 173. This one is listed as 200. That is a nominal, but enough increase for what we're anticipating we'll need to be able to have if we continue printing at the level that we're printing. The next report that we're going to talk about is actually looking at differences towards what communications are. To your point, there's definitely a expectation that we're going to do a lot with communications, a lot on discussing and a lot of planning. We're just hoping not to print as much in that concept.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, you mentioned that like this is the projected budget and then the actual expenditures previously. You mentioned that and in the admin code section, it talks about any monies that are not expended don't revert to the reserve fund, but remain in the fund.
Correct.
But presumably there might be a fund balance that rolls over. Does that fund balance and how that is spent come back to JLMBC for any discussion through the year?
We haven't done that in the past, but we can do that. We can do this in any direction that JLMBC feels comfortable in doing. But we have because the premiums take so much money out of the fund itself. Right. That balance is a small balance in relation to everything else. But we definitely can bring back more information. We can discuss that further and then go into more detail on that.
Okay. And then my other question is, some of the changes that were made to the mayor's proposed budget by council, does that have any impact on next year's employee benefits trust fund?
As far as the current outlook of it, pending final actions of the budget being final, does not, I have not seen any. Not direct.
I have a follow-up question. The changes by the council in staffing for.
No, because originally they were going to, and as of right now, as of the proposed budget that was adopted by council last week, our staff is not directly impacted. Any other questions so far? So then the next component of this is a reaffirming the practice and just clarifying everything completely on how this works for authority to expend. So that ag code section from before, and it's copied again on page, no, I did not copy it again. It is from page 2, line E, says the fund shall be administered and expenditures shall be authorized by the JLMBC or its designee. And then on page 8, that is a completely different section of the ag code. The section 4.3 and some change is the overall admin of the plan. And that's the section where it says the JLMBC shall adopt or recommend the overall plan and send it to council. That's just the plan menu. Under that, it says that the JLMBC shall recommend and personnel staff shall administer and maintain, which is similar language towards the funding action of administering the fund. And then a further section says the personnel department is authorized to expend funds for those premiums for those carrier payments. So the next step in this recommendation is to clarify that the personnel department is the JLMBC's designee as identified in the trust fund section 5.495. And there is not another designee. It's just the personnel department and no one else or the JLMBC, either or. So that's recommendation number 2, or B, reaffirm that the personnel department is the sole designee of the JLMBC. And the last recommendation, this is a draft. It is a very simplified, overly simplified to an extent, spending plan. It is the beginning of the fiscal year. The plan, when it's adopted, may change the second half of the fiscal year. Enrollment may change the second half of the fiscal year. When we go through open enrollment for changes effective January 1st, a lot can change. So in a regular budget process, like the city's budget process, there is need for adjustments. So we're recommending in item C that the JLMBC instruct us to bring back like a mid-year or other statement of how spending is going, how the fund is operating, so that we can make adjustments on that spending plan through this committee. That will also, kind of to the original point of this conversation, make it easier for the JLMBC to understand what that end dollar is going to look like when we get to that final expense report that goes forward.
A clarifying question. On page 3, we lay out at the top all of the different large cost areas for the overall HID. So the employee benefits trust fund is specifically just related to the first 3 items.
The 100% of that first line item and portions of the second and third item.
And just to clarify, the others, or benefits, whatnot, are outside the purview of this body.
Correct. They're still handled by the personnel department, but they're not under the authority of this committee.
And more, all that is separate, so.
Correct. Any questions? And this, again, this is an extremely rough draft. We can make changes to anything and bring it back.
I'm sorry for maybe not absorbing or fully understanding what you explained it, but I don't understand why D from the recommendation is necessary. Like, what does it achieve? Why is that? I mean, you've obviously supported it, but I don't understand what's necessary.
Sure. So really the only reason that it's necessary is to remove any ambiguity that there might be somebody else. So
Who would that be, though?
I'm sorry?
What agency or what would that be?
And that's, there shouldn't be any. Technically, the JLMBC, under the way that the ad code is written, you could have discretion to pick someone as your designee. It wouldn't, I don't see there's a logical reason why there would be someone other than personnel. But it's just, since we're in the process of adopting a budget, reaffirming that that is it. There is no other option that the JLMBC would identify as being able to make expenses out of this fund on their behalf.
I'm fine to move approval of that recommendation of agency.
Second.
We will now begin,
Let the record show that Marlene Seika is no longer participating in this meeting.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Marlene Fonseca is no longer present at this meeting for this item.
thank you, Sean. Okay, we will now begin the vote. Janita, your vote?
Aye.
Chad, your vote?
Aye.
Lisa, your vote?
Aye.
Malika, your vote?
Aye.
Emily, your vote?
Aye.
Matthew, your vote?
Aye.
Paul, your vote?
Aye.
Kelly, your vote? The votes are unanimous. The motion passes.
Let me ask a question about some of the materials before we move on to the. I noticed in the report that goes to city council, it mentions an independent auditor. Who goes over the trust fund. Who's over there?
Has an option, I believe, is the way that, where did you see the wording in that specifically?
You know. Or that the independent auditors of the trust fund was healthier. I was just wondering what company.
Oh, it's not a company, in that terminology, and we could revise that terminology when we bring this, to the committee next month for the fiscal year 24-25. But it's accounting staff that is not part of the EBD.
So then we can go ahead and move forward to the informational items. At number 7, committee report 25-29, plan changes to LA Well Communications.
So I'll be taking this one as well. This is again, this is a rough plan. It is a conversation piece. We want to kind of hear your feedback on how some of these things are being considered, and what you think about continuing in these options. In looking forward to how we're going to communicate, we recognize, especially if the plan changes go forward that we propose in this committee, an increase in communication will be needed. We want to make sure what we are communicating a lot and that our voices are heard, the changes are heard. But we also recognize that we need to change or alter kind of how we are doing communications so that we're reaching everybody fully, and that we're not just continuing to repeat the same archaic methods. So in looking to do that, this committee might remember when we moved to TELUS 6 years ago, there was an action to try to do an opt-out of paper mail to have things done electronically. That did not work out. We have been working with TELUS on getting that revised for a while, and that is on the calendar to go into effect in 2026. But it will not be available in this year leading up to open enrollment.
Question, I'm sorry.
Sure, of course.
It did not work out. Did it not work out because people did not opt in, or did it not work out because it didn't function?
The latter. So it did not work out because the employee experience with it was not a good one. The people did successfully opt out, but then it was too confusing for them. They got a lot of messages that weren't necessarily valid messages to go check something that wasn't there. Yeah, there's a lot of functional problems. So TELUS thinks that they've figured that out, and that we're working towards getting a new and improved and better employee experience version of it for 2026. But leading up to that, since we don't have that working, we print everything. All official communications of the program are through paper mail, which a lot of employees don't like, and for understandable reasons. And it also is very costly. The overall cost of us printing the communications for just open enrollment alone is listed in the report document. For last year, it was estimated at 165, and that was just the amount of materials printed and mailed in the month of September. It doesn't count for anything else that was mailed subsequently. It doesn't account for the many articles of return mail that we get and then have to resend out. Just the initial production of open enrollment materials was $165,000. And it is a big, massive book, right? It's the 100-something pages of the enrollment guide and everything else. And we are still, until we get the opt-out working, we are still required to send paper mail for anything that is a legal action or a legal requirement. And so our open enrollment option is an offering to the employees of their plan options. It is potential change in rules. There is a legal notice requirement there. So that does still need to be done in print. But it doesn't need to be done in print in the volume that we're doing it. So we're considering making a change to what the physical print document is going to look like, opposed to the materials that we produce. So we still have every intention of producing that 100-page, it's going to be bigger than that this year, book, but not printing 27,000 plus copies of it. Only printing a smaller quantity that are available for in-person events or for people to pick up, and mailing a much simpler and reduced packet of just the legally required information, the notice information, and referring people to a website or returning them to our office to be able to gain the additional information that they would want. That is a big shift in experience or in action, but it would be a more efficient shift. It does require a lot of physical activity for us to do the open enrollment package mailings. We are not physically fulfilling them in ourselves. We used to. We now have GSD do it, which they've been great and excellent about, but it does still create a large amount of effort. There's 2 weeks worth of physically stuffing those packets to get them out on time. So by reducing the overall packet volume, we could be much more efficient in getting our open enrollment products out. And if we can get it down to a number 10 size envelope, we could do that in a matter of 1 or 2 days instead of 2 weeks on the physical effort. Because it would be done by machine and make it a lot easier. Still through GSD, at least the intention, just wouldn't be as many people hands-on with it. And we'd like to try to carry that concept on forward. So that same open enrollment size packet goes out to new hires. Every time we get a new hire, rehire, they all get the same packet in the mail. That voluminous thing. So we're still saying we want to send something. We just don't want to send as much bulk. That is the first item. Any questions so far? Second item, increase direct electronic communications. Especially also during open enrollment, the use of email has been extremely beneficial in us trying to direct people. But historically, we have always sent out just citywide email communications. Out of the 50-ish thousand employees that are with the city, a good portion have access to city email one way or another, so maybe like 40,000 or so, but only 27 of those are actual members. So we're sending out communications to a bunch of people that don't need them, and sometimes are not happy that they're getting their inboxes filled with them. The city's Google account has made it easier for us to be able to give more targeted emails. So we can now, without reaching a capacity limit, send direct communications to just those 27,000 employees if we have an email for them. And we're talking still just informational communications. We're not talking personal or confidential materials because we have not done opt-out and we don't have their authorization to send those kind of things. Legal still has to go through our mail. So we're talking more of marketing, more of educational communication pieces. We can do more towards a targeted group. And to do that, we would be using whatever is on Workday, since we don't have the opt-out function working in TELUS. Looking at what Workday shows out of our 27,000 employees, there's only about 2,000 or so that don't have, or at least appear to not have a valid work email in the system. There's definitely clear buckets of people in certain departments that are in that position. So for the most part, we would be able to reach and to try to make a point better. those individuals are still not getting the citywide email because they're not, they don't have an email at all. So in trying to create more direct email communications this way, we would not be changing the population. We would just be removing the population that is not eligible from these regular mass email communications that we plan to be sending out. And then the last consideration that we're looking at doing is expanding how we are trying to deliver messages and talk about things. We're still looking at options there, so there's not a lot of information in the report. But we are re-looking at social media and other options on being able to reach groups. We had definitely a few years ago said no to that area, but now we're reconsidering it. And we're also looking in the same way, looking at liaisons or the use of liaisons or HR groups to further communicate information. We had also stepped a little away from that in previous years, just because there is too much happening where information was misrepresented, where people were giving out answers that were no longer the answer because things had changed. So we had to change our instructional directive towards departments to say, don't say anything about the program, just send them back to us. Now we're reconsidering or relooking at what that communication pathway can look like and how we can better use liaisons and departments to further messages. And we're looking at really everything's on the table. We're looking at every possible thing that we could consider changing in making sure that this extremely large population with varying different demographics and preferences and everything you can consider wants to get their information and how they better receive it. So this is what we're considering in that all of my staff are talking about what this communication plan for next year's, or really this year for open enrollment for next year is going to look like. We are actively putting that together. We expect to bring a draft to this committee probably around the same time that we are expecting to adopt the plan for 2026. And then we also plan to bring forth some of these examples of what this simplified printed communication might look like versus the traditional electronic version. But we want to kind of hear your feedback on these items, or if there's anything different that you want us to consider.
Do you have a breakdown of 2,000 people, employees who don't have email addresses?
I don't have it with me, and it's not part of the report, but we do.
I just asked because when GSD was setting up everybody's workday, we did create email addresses for people to be able to log in, but they're not employees who are using a computer, who got custodians, mechanics, parking attendants. So I'm just curious if that's part of the 2,000, or because I think there's a universe of people who have an email and never access it. You probably have the same.
That's a great point, because we only have the ability to get what's in Workday. So if that email address for that employee is not on the account, then we do not have direct access to it.
Just while you're done, I'm sorry. No, one of the things I've seen work well, and I think it would maybe be a workaround for the email issue, is the use of QR codes that link to videos. It's just, that's the way the young people learn stuff now. I mean, that's just, they don't want to read the 100 pages of an open enrollment document. They just won't. And so I just seen that work really well with some other employers in different situations, and it doesn't really rely. If you're truncated, written correspondence at QR codes that led to places, people, they'll scan with their phone. So.
You brought up Workday. Emily's point, I'm curious, a good majority of staff are entering their time to Workday, and I know we have timekeepers that help do that for some employees as well, but I'm curious, like, leading up to open enrollment and during open enrollment, is there any messaging that can be made available in Workday when you're like, as employees entering their time, even if it's just like a pop-up that's like, it's open enrollment, like to catch them where if people want to get paid, they're gonna enter their time. That's just a window of opportunity. I don't know if there's concerns or issues with that, but I just want to bring it up because it might just be an opportunity for communication.
We can look into it.
And just also, to kind of piggyback on what Chad was saying, I know you, spoke about the lengthy process of stuffing envelopes and, preparing things, but what about postcards that have like a QR code that kind of went out to folks, so it's cuts down on the paper and get everybody.
I don't know if you already considered doing it, if we already do virtual town halls, but that seemed to work really well for Workday and during COVID, and I know that they're used to that, especially if they can include a Q&A. And the only thing would be cool if the providers actually could do virtual town halls as well in this case, since there's potentially changes. Also, since we all have intranet that our employees log into, the pop-up idea would be good maybe too, to get the different website folks and the different departments to have that pop-up come up when their employees go to their internet that just says don't get open.
Maybe like a countdown, so it's public time, you got the new days. Yes, make it exciting.
But all of these ideas are great for the people who have computers and use computers for work, but we have a significant population of employees who either because they're part-time or intermittent workers or just don't use computers in their work, that we need able to provide traditional ways to communicate. And
Do you guys text us? I'm sorry.
No, I was just, Lisa brings up a good point. I mean, I do think there could be more communication with departments to get messaging out when we're doing safety tailgate meetings and just like more boots on the ground staff. I think departments and management could do a better job, you know, flagging that it's open enrollment for employees. And I wonder just if that communication, you know, even if it's something that goes out to GMs to say like, push this down through your chain of command. Because it's important for all employees to know it's open enrollment. Because I agree, we have a lot of employees that hard for,
Question just to our labor partners, do you all communicate also with your folks about open enrollment? Is that a pathway that we also could utilize to work with, I mean, just out of curiosity?
we do, but we suffer from the same, there are some people who are just not connected in that way.
Right.
And so we still need to figure out how to use word of mouth and one-on-one conversation. So department wise, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that can be open to them.
So is Workday vulnerable to freedom of information requests? Like, is that something that if somebody made a freedom of information request, we have to open up all the elements of Workday?
They're still within the Freedom Act confidentiality redactions, but I believe so.
Because right now, we don't have hard choices in Workday. Are we going in the direction of trying to use Workday as our platform in the future for making? Or is it?
Well, I will say, I will respond to that and say, hey, we were approached and we said no. We currently have a contract that is still, pending council approval for extension, but going through for another 4+ years, with our current third-party administrator. There is a very strong concern that I have and that staff, I think, would echo, of combining anything. There are many valid reasons why the enrollment system with all the benefit information and dependent information should be completely separate from any other city system.
And like voluntary choices that we get to, like.
Yes.
That information is not for sale.
Correct. Everything that is done in the benefit system is very strongly protected.
No matter where it is, but the focus should not be on Workday. It's information that the city owns and has access to.
So any voluntary choice that an employee makes about their compensation ought to be protected from.
It depends on how the request is phrased and the totality of the data elements that are requested. I mean, obviously, if we get requests weekly, maybe daily. And, you know, if someone says, I want the date of birth and full social security number and mother's maiden name for every single employee you have, obviously, that's make that no. But we give out email addresses. Departments, names, email addresses, and that, you know, we own that information, it's not protected.
But Paul, maybe the question sounds like compensation is obviously subject to public records act request, but are one to individual benefits elections.
I
don't know.
Directions that your compensation, you make choices about.
But the elections, it doesn't matter where they reside. Whether it's a workday
Right.
or a third-party system or on a cocktail napkin,
No, public records.
it would be, then it would be, it's not a matter of the system itself, it's a matter of what type of information and all that you're asking for. So I don't know if are my elections something that's discoverable?
No, but the amount, the physical cost amount, is. Right, so, and, you know, there's level of argument to whether or not that could be identifiable on itself, right? Like if you have a dollar amount on your paycheck, maybe that could be identified, oh, okay, it must be that plan. But the actual action that you have covered is completely protected and not discovered and not, thank you. Well, can be something actually, but
That was a bad, yeah. That's not
not subject to public disclosure.
request.
Correct.
California Public Records Request.
Yeah.
Right. Any other feedback or questions on communications? And we're going to talk a lot about communications over the next few meetings, but any other things for us to consider?
Okay, we can move on to item number 8, committee report 2530, projects and activities.
Good morning again. I will be going over some of the more notable items from this report with you all. But first up, just an apologies. As I was going through the report this morning, I just noticed that there were a few typos that made its way to the final copy that unfortunately wasn't scrubbed. But first up are 2 carrier updates. The first one is an Anthem network update. Anthem recently advised us that they and Scripps Health had reached an agreement for a new contract that would be retroactive back to January 1st, 2025, and will expire on September 30th, 2026. Earlier this year on January 1st, the Anthem's network contract with Scripps Health had expired, but since then they had continued negotiation, and the negotiation was successful. Now, moving over to Kaiser, the NUHW strike that had been ongoing since October has also concluded. Both parties had continued negotiations and ratified a new 4-year agreement that covers covers approximately 2,400 mental health and addiction employees in Southern California. Moving on down to page 2, we have 2 RFP updates for you. Following their approvals at the May 1st JLMBC meeting, staff has been working on finalizing both the benefit plan consultant RFP and the dev RFP. And we are currently targeting on having those RFPs distributed on RAMP LA in late June. Next item is the cash and lose, is regarding the cash and lose survey. So after the JLMBC approved the recommendation on May 1st, the cash and lose survey was issued via email on May 15th. The deadline for employees to respond is July 17th. As part of the survey, we had asked for a number of questions, and in this report, we have a number of the more notable responses received so far. And then moving down to page 3, we have a staffing update for you. Unfortunately, we have 2 vacancies to report. and one of which it's with great sadness that I have to announce that one of the vacancies was due to the passing of our friend and colleague Ted Vasquez, who passed away on May 12th from a protracted illness. We are also anticipating that due to the budget situation that the city is in, we may have a few more vacancies in the coming weeks as some staff members may participate in the expedited transfer and placement process opportunity that was offered recently. And lastly, we do expect that those vacancies will be filled via internal transfers or placement as opposed to the usual methods that we've used to fill past vacancies. And that brings us to the end of this report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have and also to take any take any items you may have for future agendas.
Members, I think we should adjourn in Ted's memory.
Thank you all.
All right, let's go ahead and adjourn. 10:22. Okay.